Hello and welcome to Latin American music. Just so you know, before we get started, you're going to find a study guide that goes along with this PowerPoint. You also will find um, the listening log that I will be referring to that is a separate document as well. So we're going to start off by learning a little bit about Latin music using its cultural history. Then we'll go into the percussion instruments that you'll hear in Latin music, along with the beginnings of Latin jazz and how Latin music has really influenced American music today. Four things we're looking at for the cultural history. What is Latin music? Where does it originate? How did it come to the United States? And why Latin music is American music. Latin music is any music that comes from countries that are south of the United States. So we're looking at countries like Mexico and the Caribbean islands, Central America, and anything in South America. The important thing to know, each country has its own heritage and its own identity. So no matter what country you may choose to visit, each one's going to have a little bit different style and different singing or different dancing and rhythms that go along with each country. There's three different things that they do share though. All the different countries in Latin America were influenced by the African cultures. The Native American cultures are what we would consider to be probably the Aztec culture from Mexico, or Incas down in South America, and the European cultures that came over and settled them. So how did Latin music get to the United States? Well, first we have the colonization of the New World with these different countries that came over from England trying to get their God, their gold, and their glory, which are the three reasons for colonizing the United States and all the parts of Americas. So when they came over, the European countries were not really nice to the people who were already living here. A lot of times they enslaved them and they treated them very, very poorly because the European cultures thought that their cultures and their customs were. Places like Spain colonized Mexico and Cuba, especially Puerto Rico, which is important to us because that's part of the United States. You have France, who colonized not only Haiti, but Canada up above the United States. And you have Portugal, the only country that they colonized in South America was Brazil. And of course, England came over and colonized. Cuba is the largest island in the Caribbean, and it had a lot of sugar. Just like we had a lot of tobacco that was being produced here in our area, or if you go south, you had the cotton fields. Sugar was a big deal. So they needed more people to help them produce the sugar. So Cuba became part of the triangle with the African American slave trade. So they would bring the African slaves over, and they weren't treated any better down in Cuba or in South America than they were up here in America. That they did, the Africans really tried to hold on to their traditions. And so a lot of things they did secretly and in quiet to make sure that in privacy, to make sure that people didn't get in trouble or didn't get killed. They did take on Christianity as a religion, but they still had some of their own styles of worship that they brought with them. And a part of their ceremonies included drumming and chanting and things like that that ended up becoming incorporated into. So why is Latin music American music? In the 1920s, the United States took an island called Puerto Rico and included it in the United States. We do not have it as a state, we have it as a territory, which means the people who live there are considered to be United States citizens and they can move around freely within the United States. They're just not considered to be a state. Puerto Rico was recently in the news about 2 years ago when they had a devastating hurricane that hit the island. And there's still parts of Puerto Rico who do not have electricity because they're still getting all of that stuff back, which is sad that it's taking them that long to get those people electricity and some things they need. But back in the 1920s and 30s, the Puerto Ricans decided to come to America. And one of the first places they went as a huge group of people was in New York City. The musical that I'll mention later on, West Side Story, is based on the immigrants of Puerto Rico and Italy and how they were in the same neighborhoods and they needed to learn how to work together and get along with each other. In 1950s, Castro was a dictator in Cuba, which means he was like their president, but he was way worse than a president was. He would tell them what to do, and he was really very mean to all the people in Cuba. So a lot of the Cubans didn't want to live there anymore, and they decided to come to America. They went into Miami or New York City as places where they would like to. So Miami and New York City became really big places for Latin music to start sort of booming. In the 1940s, some things that helped it take off. Duke Ellington, who is a very well-known a very well-known jazz piano player, brought in a Latin composer, Juan Tizo, to help write some music for him. Not only did Duke Ellington incorporate that into jazz, but we have Dizzy Gillespie, another jazz musician, who included Chano Pozo, who's a Cuban conga drum, in his band. So when he brought in the conga drum, all of a sudden we have a new group, a new style of music called cubop, which is sort of a subculture of jazz. Other claims to fame were Tito Puente and Perez Prada, who brought in mambos. And thanks to all of these people up above, we now have a style of jazz music called Latin jazz. Latin jazz was so influential that when Leonard Bernstein, who's a pretty popular composer of Broadway, he was writing a new musical, and he decided he wanted to have sort of something a lot different than what had ever been on Broadway before. And he turned to Latin American music to help him. So he used a lot of Latin style of music in his musical West Side Story. So that's how Latin music sort of influenced jazz and classical styles of music. Pop, that kind of music. But how did it come into pop music that we know today? Well, some big deals. In the 1950s, TV was a really big deal at that time. It was just starting, and they didn't have a lot of TV shows on like we have today. The biggest show was called I Love Lucy, and it starred Lucille Ball, who was married in real life to Desi Arnaz, and they were also married in real life on the TV show. So his character was a band leader in a cabana. So a lot of the show focused on his career as a cabana musician. So he brought in a lot of Latin music and dancing and rhythms into America's television and the Americans' living room every time they watched I Love Lucy. So people who had never heard Latin music before were suddenly getting an introduction to it. In the 1970s, Carlos Santana created a band just called Santana. He's a really famous guitarist, and he was very well known for his guitar playing. He is still considered to be one of the top guitarists ever in American music. In 1980s, we have Gloria Estefan, who partnered up with the Miami Sound Machine to have a lot of pop hits, a few of which you'll get a chance to listen to on their listening log. But I'm pretty sure you'll recognize the one I put on there for her because her music is pretty popular, even still today. Another group of merit is called Menudo, and they were a boy band. if it's really cool because I put the video on there for Menudo, and you'll see that they look an awful lot and even sound an awful lot like New Edition. Just the style of dancing and the way they sing and different things like that, their hairstyles, but they were all Latinos. In the 1990s, we have artists like Selena, who made her way under the Hall of Fame with music simply by singing nothing but Spanish music. She didn't have to transfer any of her music over to English for people to like her. People liked her because they liked her singing. Ricky Martin, who was a teenager in Menudo, who took a solo career after Menudo broke up, and he got very popular after that. Mark Anthony is another very popular performer, as well as Enrique Iglesias. And in 2000s, we have Christina Aguilera, Jennifer Lopez, and Shakira. Those are just a few names. I know I could list a lot more, but I wanted to give you at least here a few names that you would recognize, especially. So one of the things that makes Latin American music special is its dancing. We have the show Dancing with Stars, which is pretty popular on TV. They have lots of seasons of it. And it's not only with celebrities dancing with, really good dance instructors or dance stars, but they have all these different styles of dance music. If you remember, I said each country has their own individuality when it comes to rhythms and music. Well, it's the same way with dancing. So each one of these dances comes from different countries. For example, calypso music is a style of music that's going to come from the Caribbean islands. If you are interested in learning how to salsa dance, there's a button right here at the bottom. All you have to do is click on that salsa button and you'll go to a separate video from YouTube. It's a 5-minute lesson to help you learn some basic steps. The instructor does a pretty good job of giving you some instruction to help you learn how to salsa. I hope you decide to explore that because it really is a lot of fun to learn how to dance some of these dance moves. Would be nothing without some percussion instruments to help lay on some flavor and some fun. So here's a list of all these different kinds of different percussion instruments. Pay attention especially to like congas and bongos and timbales or bambas and tamboras. Those are all different styles of drums. It's hard to imagine that they use all these different drums to help create different beats. A cajon is a really important drum because it is starting to come back, and you sit on, the person who plays it sits on it. It's like a box and they sit on the box. Pretty fun stuff. Has a neat sound. Here's a few shakers. You have a cuatro drum, which is good for mariachi band. Steel drum, which you'll hear in this recording right here. They didn't have steel drums in the instrument video I incorporated down here, so I found a middle school steel drum band that I think you'll enjoy listening to. So visit these two links down here to explore a few more, not only these instruments, but a few others I didn't list here, so you get an idea of what some of these instruments can sound like and look like. Now we're at our Hall of Fame for the females. I'm going to start up in this corner. This is Carmen Miranda. She was a famous dancer in movies in the 1940s, well known for her big hats. She had fruit on her head or big feathers and all kinds of things, and it was really tall. So I'm sure they had a lot of fun trying to figure out how to keep those hats on her head while she did all of her dance moves. This is Chita Rivera. She was on Broadway in the 1940s and 50s and 60s, very well known for her dancing. This is Rita Moreno, another famous dancer and singer who was on Broadway. She was in West Side Story, I mentioned earlier. This picture is a recent picture of her. I found her on Netflix. She has been in several different TV shows that I found on Netflix as different people's grandmothers, a nice Latina grandmother. And she, no matter what character she's playing, she always has a lot of fun and flair. And she's it's a lot of fun to watch as a performer because she just clearly is enjoying having the spotlight. This is Gloria Estefan. We mentioned her in the 1980s. Not only was she popular then, but she and her husband put on a Broadway show a few years ago based on the music that she made popular in the 80s. It was called Get on Your Feet. And I think it just closed on Broadway last year. So that was really cool because she was able to take her music and sort of reinvent it for the stage. Down here we have Shakira and Jennifer Lopez, Christina Aguilera, and here is Selena. Selena, I mentioned a little bit earlier. She was in the 1990s. She in addition to being an artist who only had to sing Spanish, who only sang Spanish in her songs and was popular for that, she probably gained some more notoriety because she was killed, unfortunately, when she was very young. She was just starting her career, and one of her fans killed her when she was on tour. So because of that, that helped to sort of skyrocket her music after she passed away. And here's our guys. This is Ricky Martin. He's the one who had the solo career after Menudo broke up. Here's Desi Arnaz, the one who was married to Lucille Ball on I Love Lucy. Jose Feliciano, you may recognize. He did the famous Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad. And as you can see, he is blind. This is Tito Puente with his famous bongos, and he sure looks like he's having a lot of fun. Another entertainer who just really has fun and livens up in front of a crowd. A lot of fun to watch. Unfortunately, he has passed away, of course. And then down here is Richie Valens, another musician who was taken from us very early in his career. He was only, I believe, in his early 20s when he passed away. In 1959, he died in a very famous plane crash that not only killed him, but some other musicians. It was a very sad day because a lot of the musicians that we had in the 1950s passed away in that plane crash, and he was one of them. His music you will find in the listening log is La Bamba, so I think you'll enjoy him. Now, from someone who has passed away to someone who is more than vibrant, this is Lin-Manuel Miranda. He is the man who created Hamilton, which is currently running on Broadway if Broadway ever opens up again. And he, as you can see, is standing in front of Moana because he made all the music for Moana. In fact, some of the music in the soundtrack he is singing. He was also in Mary Poppins Returns. Another famous musician turned movie star is Antonio Banderas. You see his picture here from Spy Kids, where he played the father in all the Spy Kids movies that you might know. But he started off life as a singer. And behind me is Carlos Santana, who is well known as a really, really good guitarist. Listening log, and here are some different listening log choices for you. I put a few up here. This is Enrique Iglesias. That's his famous song. We have a few others. Let's see. La Bamba, I mentioned with Richie Valens. Richie Valens. Deo, Harry Belafonte. We listened to that one in class before we said goodbye. Underneath here, there's Kathia, I believe is how we say her name. She was on America's Got Talent, or no, it's American Idol. And she sang her song in Spanish, but it didn't matter. Those judges turned their chairs anyhow for her because they could recognize talent when they heard it. And behind my picture is Shakira. I love this recording. This is the Waka Waka, This is Africa song. I love it because you can really hear how African music and Latin American music have blended together to make a really fun song. So of all these songs, there's about 15 on here on this list. I'm asking for you to listen to 7. So go through, you don't have to listen to all of them, just pick a few as you're listening to the listening log and you fill in fill in who you're listening to. I would say about 2 minutes for each song if you can, so that way you get a chance to really get into the music and get an idea of what the artist was trying to get across. Put down your thoughts into different categories and enjoy. I hope you enjoy exploring some of the Latin American music, and we'll see you again next time for our next PowerPoint presentation. Have a great day. Bye bye.